I'm going to give you a short presentation of one of the tools that we have in our cluster here at the municipality of Aalborg, where I'm sitting. It's actually not that common that a municipality has a cluster. Normally they are privately driven or privately funded. But actually, House of Energy, which is the name of the cluster that we have, is born in the public system. It started 7 or 8 years ago with a smaller cluster focusing on the district heating system, which is something that we are very good at here in Denmark. Then a couple of years later, we had another small cluster established which focused on the wind energy. And then from 2016, we merged together into one joint energy cluster. So we've had a long run before coming to this. We have different partners involved, of course, companies, knowledge institution, and stuff like that. So I'll give you an introduction, very short introduction to who we are, and actually the tool that I'm going to present is that because of the fact that we are now a larger cluster than we used to be, we needed to have a bit more structure on all our data and all our members. And one of the things that we do quite a lot is that we physically visit many of our companies. So this means that we spend a lot of time on the road, but we had to register all of these visits somewhere. Obviously, the municipality of Aalborg had their own system, but it's not that good. So we actually got a specific tool in Podio again. So it's not going to be the same presentation as Lian gave you a month ago. This one is going to be a bit more concrete, a bit more specific on how we are using it and the value, nonetheless, that it has created for us. So very short on House of Energy and who we are. We are located, as I said before, in the municipality of Aalborg. We have 15 employees in total. 8 of us are here in Aalborg, and then we have some satellite offices in Hobro, around 50 kilometers south of here. We have one in Brussels, and we have also the University of Aalborg. That's the AAU letter there, sorry for that. And then we have this Hydrogen Valley, which is the very specific, you can say it is a company, but it's more an institution who focuses a lot on hydrogen and how we can use hydrogen in our energy system. So this is who we are. We started, as I said before, in 2009 with only 2 employees. And then came the other project in wind in 2011 with 2 more. But since we merged together in 2016, we more than doubled our number of employees. You can see the partners here. The Business Aalborg is the business department at the municipality of Aalborg, and we're the main driver in the project. It's us who administrates everything. It's us who have the budget, the economy, the finances, who handles all the expenditures, who do the reporting, who make the applications for different projects. Some of the other partners, of course, assist us in that, especially the university and also Hydrogen Valley. And then North Denmark EU office, the logo at the bottom right. They assist us, especially when it comes to EU funding, but not all of our projects are funded by the European Union. So we also have projects financed by the region or by some state or governmental money bins here in Denmark. We have 5 focus areas, more or less. We have the district heating and wind energy, as I also said before. We have green gases, which is the Hydrogen Valley. It's not only hydrogen, it can also be methanol and other chemical products that you can use for energy. Then we have energy efficient solutions, which, it could be everything. It could be everything from insulating your house to a company that would like to optimize its production process in order to save energy and stuff like that. And then we have the last one, the integrated energy system. that could be actually a focus area for all of Denmark, because this is what we're very, very good at. We have both wind power and a lot of still coal, and we have also gas. But the combination of this energy systems or energy sources is quite unique. So we are used to in Denmark to have a mixture of different energy sources, and that's actually one of the things that we are quite good at in Denmark. So we use that a lot when it comes to export, and also helping our companies exporting. I just wanted to show some photos of the things that we've had, so that you can see that. The first three, at least the car it gives itself, it's a hydrogen car. On the right, we have actually the largest blade factory in the world. It's located here in the eastern part of Aalborg. It's Siemens Gamesa who owns that. Around 2,000 employees. That's quite a lot in Denmark, taking into consideration that our salaries are quite high. But it's very, very large, and actually you can see that the harbor is located just behind the factory, and actually the harbor made it possible for the factory to have their own road. So actually, when you can see all the black things on the right, that's actually wind turbine wings. They are quite long. I think the long building you can see in the middle, it's around 500 meters. So each of the wings are around between, I think it's 62 to 80 meters in length. So it's quite difficult to transport them on the road. So actually what the harbor did was to make a small unique road for transporting wings, so that you don't bother the rest of the traffics on the road. So that's why the factory actually has expanded heavily the past 5 years, because the harbor has made everything possible for them to expand. So we help them with that as well, because that's business development in the city. To the bottom left, just under the car, we have actually quite a funny picture. You can see a lot of solar panels on top, but what you actually see here on the bottom left, the big white square, is actually just a large swimming pool containing water. But this is actually part of a district heating system. So what the solar panels do is to heat up water when the sun shines. So they use electricity for that. And then this white panel you can see on the bottom is actually an insulation part. So all the water keeps itself warm. So this means that when we go into the cold season in September, October, and we need heating in our houses, we can use the hot water that are insulated there in the ground. So we don't need to involve or to fire up our coal-fueled plants. So this is an example of a project that House of Energy has helped with realizing. Yeah, and then just the last one regarding the house and the insulation. You all know that, and I won't bother you with that. We have approximately 400 members, companies, most of them, I think 350, 60 of them are companies. Then we have the 400 scientists at the university, and we have, at least I think I should adjust that number. We had 322 physical visits last year to companies. So that number is not correct. Sorry for that. So, but that's one of the foundations for House of Energy. It is to be on the road and talk to the small companies and see how we can assist them. Just to give you a short overview who we are and the different types of members that we have. I won't bother you with that. Let's move on to the things that really matters besides the activities that we have in House of Energy. We have a lot of activities, and therefore a lot of things that we need to keep track on. And besides all the activities, the green circles that you can see here, as I said before, we are a merge of existing clusters within district heating and wind and hydrogen, and also the scientists at the university. So it meant that the reason or the need for collecting all of our documentation and all our data just got higher. So of course all the different original partners in House of Energy had different ways of doing it. So we actually started from zero when we had to make a new system. So besides the delegations, as I said here, you can see what we do. We have Podio has actually been one of our competencies and now. And we started from scratch, as I said. So what we did and where we actually found inspiration was to talk to good old Clean. Because if anyone is expert in Denmark when it comes to project and to fundraising and to energy and also to using Podio, it is Clean. So they help us very much in the beginning of identifying what it is that we need, what do we need it for, why do we need it, how do we want it to be structured, how much of our data did we want to actually put into Podio, because as Leon also said in the first webinar, the advantage and the pros for having Podio is that you can do everything, but that's also the disadvantage, because you can easily put in a lot more apps or a lot more data in Podio that you actually need. So you have to make some sort of a plan for yourself, what it is that you want to have in Podio. And I mean, one of the things that we actually were very glad that Clean helped us with was to identify some of these different apps that you can install, because obviously we have some of the same activities going on. Some of them are mutual, and so we actually learned from Clean and how to build it up. So the things I've listed there on the left were the things that all of our original clusters they had in common, but we just had to find out how we would like to collect them into one joint and easy accessible and easy usable program. So before, when we started, we had simply just too much paper, no structure, no organizing, especially on the university, because the scientists. No, I don't want to say anything bad about the scientists, but they are normally focusing on science and on investigating something. So they're not actually that interested in documentation. But for me, as the administrative responsible in House of Energy, we needed a system. So I had a very many long dialogues with some of the scientists at university and also the secretaries on how they did things already and how we could do that jointly forward. So I had a lot of meetings and a lot of I got a lot of gray hairs out of that because at least the university, they are a bit slow and a bit old-fashioned when it comes to change. But this is how it looked before, and afterwards we got this. We actually call this our small dashboard. This is actually the introduction, the starting page for House of Energy in Podio. Some of these are, you can see, also it's in Danish. Sorry for that, of course. But some of them are actually easy recognizable for non-connections as well. But what we use it for, especially, you can see the circle in the middle, dialogue. The Danish word version of the word is what we use it for primarily, because with so many companies and so many company visits, we need to have it structured. So this means, for example, if some of my colleagues that you can see they are listed below, if they, for example, visit a company here in Aalborg, and I'm going to visit the same company 2 months later, I can go into Podio and see what my colleague wrote on the first meeting and use that as an inspiration or as a set-off for the dialogue that I'm going to have with the company. At the same time, it's very smart because you can use it for showing all the history that this specific company has had with the cluster, meaning that when you go out once a year and reclaiming a membership fee, and then maybe the director or the managing director will ask you, well, Alex, what have I actually got out of being a member in House of Energy? I can simply find the company here in Podio and all the things that we have registered, both if they have participated in different seminars or workshops or conferences, if we have visited them, of course, but also if they have been part of a project or is part of a project, we can just take a print of that and then show that to the CEO and say, well, you can see here you have actually had 5 visits, you have participated in 10 meetings, and etc. So this is a very, very, very easy way for me to find out, well, what is the activities that we have, or what sort of activities we have with the individual companies. You can see all the apps listed on the top, but on your right you can see these indicators that reminds you of driving a car. Obviously, this is not the speed, but what we use that for is to have a status on our performance. Obviously, we have some indicators, as in normal connections, that we need to fill out in House of Energy as well, or we need to complete or fulfill each year. So before that, when I did all the registration from 4 different systems, I spent a lot of time on that. But now I can simply just go into Podio, and I can see in these speedometers here on the right, well, the 200 sign you can see there, where it switches from yellow to green, meaning that we have to have 200 company visits a year. So we can actually see this is from yesterday, this screen dump. So far this year we've had 49, so we are still on track. So we have to make sure that once we come into December, we should approach or has surpassed the line of 200. So this is a very easy way for us to see if we're on track. The other indicators listed below, the other speedometers where you can see 25 and 12, are just different indicators as well. But this is the general overview I talked about that I needed for me to see. You can see on my next slide here that this is our targets, our overall targets. It's no secret. I'm sorry again. It's in Danish, but we have from the top different the number of physical meetings that we are to have with our companies, and you can see the first slide on the first picture where it says it's in Danish again. Sorry for that, but I have divided into the first half of 2017 and the second half of 2017, and then a total. And then it was updated here on the 28th of February 2018. So this is a very, very easy way. All these numbers listed below here, it took me approximately 1 hour, as I wrote on the left, for me to find out all these indicators. What is the status on them? Before, it took at least 2 or 3 days because there were so many different systems that I had to look into. So even though it has taken some time to get the right setup in Podio, every time we are to do some sort of reporting, I can simply get Podio to find the exact number on that indicator that I need in a few seconds. So I save a lot of time doing that. So doing the reporting, which is normally quite it takes some time, I can do that in only 1 day now. There's a written part, of course, besides these indicators here. But it's a very good way for me to also to maybe show to the scientists or to some of our collaboration partners to see, well, we still need some more projects being developed, or we still need some more company visits, or we still need some more press releases or whatever. I can just simply take a screen dump of that in Podio and show that and send that directly to my colleagues. So it's also easy for them to see, well, what it is they need to deliver in order for us to fulfill our goals. So thank you, Clean, and thank you, Podio, for having this. I mean, the system is simply very, very great. The setup phase, the startup phase took some time, a couple of months with the meetings with the developers. But it was worth it because already now we have saved, 3 weeks in man hours when it comes to reporting. So it has been very, very good, as I said before. So this is why we chose to have Podio, and this is why we will continue using Podio in the future, because you can use it for whatever need you have. Which also leads me to my final slide, which Leon also presented on his webinar. I mean, if you as a cluster or if you as an organization choose to use Podio, you have to make sure that all of your colleagues and all of your employees are using it. Because if they're not using it, you're not able to see, or you can't collect the data that you need. So it takes some convincing to your employees, especially the ones who spend a lot of time, for example, developing projects or visiting companies. It takes some time to get them convinced to remember to fill in the things in Podio. But this is only in the beginning, because when they can see the benefit from it, they can see, okay, it actually makes sense. And Podio is like a social media platform. You all know it from our connections. I mean, you can easily adjust it. It's very easy to use. You can be connected with just one profile. You can be connected to several different workspaces. So you can access all the projects that you're working on, and once it's based on an online system, I mean, you can have partners all over the world joining your workspace in Podio. So this is a very, very good thing. And then, as I said before, it's time saving. Once the system is up and running, and once your colleagues are using it, you can collect all the data and all the things you need in a matter of minutes instead of a matter of days. So when it comes to limitation, there are practically none. And this is also one of the disadvantages in Podio. It is that if you don't build the system the way you need, it will simply be too much to maintain everything. I mean, you have to be quite specific on what apps and what you're going to use the system for, because when you start Podio, it's actually just a blank page. So you have to fill in, you have to develop the separate or different indicators and apps that you would like to use, and then getting these different apps to talk together and interact with each other. So it takes some time, and it takes some programming, and not all people can do that on their own. So you might need to have some sort of external expertise. I could recommend Clean if you are going to use it. But once you have defined that, and once you have edited your application so that it suits your needs, it is simply very, very easy to use. And as I said before, it's an ongoing thing. So once you have the system, you continuously need to fill in the information that you collect once you visit the companies, or once you have developed a new project, or if you're going to have a new meeting or event. You simply need to fill that in Podio. If not, your colleagues won't be able to see what you're actually working with. So you have to make sure that once you have implemented it, in order to avoid garbage in and garbage out, I mean, you need to make sure that all of your colleagues and partners, they are using it, and that takes time. I mean, even though we've been using Podio for a bit more than a year now, and Clean also told me that when we had the introduction phase, that's the difficult part, especially for the ones who are not using it on an everyday basis, especially external partners and international partners who don't know the system. For them, it can be quite difficult, and it takes some time for them to use it. But once you're there, I mean, there's practically no limits for what you can do with it. So my advice at the end is just go for it. That was my presentation of how we are using Podio on a practical level when it comes to especially the company visits. We're using it for tracking the different companies that we actually visit, and also all the history that we've had, all the dialogues and interactions we've had with the specific companies. We can go down to that nano level on each company. So that's a very, very good thing, and it has been a very, very large help for us having the system. So if you are in more or less the same area as me, working in a cluster, I would highly recommend it for you. It's also quite cheap. I can just mention that at the end, it costs, I think, around $100 a month or something like that for the premium version. Of course, then you have to spend some money in the setup and the programming. But for a very short amount of money, you have a very, very good system that would help you indeed when it comes to collecting data and collecting simply get a status on the different activities that you have going on in your own cluster. So that was it from me. Are there any questions? No, I don't think so. I can't see any messages, at least on the right. So I assume that's it. So I will say thank you for now, and have a nice day.